Hi everyone, this is Morgan Blinken with Positively Osceola, and we are here celebrating 75 years of the Silver Spurs Rodeo. We are here with some of the former big bosses with the rodeo. There's so much heritage and so much tradition that goes into the Silver Spurs Rodeo, and we are so excited to be celebrating 75 years. We are going to be talking with them about their experiences with Silver Spurs Rodeo and all the fun things that the rodeo and the heritage brings to Osceola County. We're going to go through and introduce each one of these special people to the rodeo, starting with Mr. Clarence.
I'm Clarence Thackers. I was proud to be big boss in 1999.
And I'm Patsy Heffner, and I was proud to be big boss in 1992-93.
Chris Fluke, current big boss, 2018-2019.
Are you proud of that, Chris?
I'm proud of it.
I'm Ricky Booth. I was proud to be big boss back in 2011-2012.
Perfect. So how did the Silver Spurs Riding Club begin?
Well, the seed was actually planted in 1941 when a group of local ranchers was invited to participate in the inaugural parade in Tallahassee for the newly elected Governor Spencer Holland. So that's really when the group first started.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. And we're celebrating 75 years of the Silver Spurs Rodeo. That is so absolutely incredible. How many years has the Silver Spurs Rodeo been around?
Our first, 75 years of rodeo. No, the first actual full dress rodeo though was in 1944. The admission to that was a war bond because the founding members saw a need, you know, that this community could donate to. So so that was the general or the original admission to the first rodeo that we had. And I think that kind of kicked off what this club's all about, philanthropy and heritage, and what this club still stands for today.
And that rodeo was actually at the corner of Neptune Road and Kings Highway,
Kings Highway,
which are
Pinky Villa.
Pinky Villa, where there are homes existing today before it was moved over here.
Yeah, so how has the Silver Spurs Rodeo survived all these years, and who manages it?
Well, it gets managed by the board of directors, I guess, could be the start, the big boss and executive board, and then we have another selection of directors on the board. But then how it really runs, though, is committees. It's all volunteer committees, and they kind of run everything you see happen.
And that's when you come to a rodeo, the folks in the concession stand, the folks selling you the tickets, if there's anybody helping you park, if there's anybody helping you to your seat, those are all volunteer community members, and I think that's really what makes the organization so special. And you can go, I've been to a lot of rodeos around this country, and I can tell you there's not many, actually not anyone just like this one.
One of the amazing things about that is on some of these committees, there'll be 1, 2, and 3 generations serving on that same committee. The depth and the foundation and the knowledge of those committees is just incredible.
That's great. And the Silver Spurs Riding Club is such a big part of the Silver Spurs. And it's a nonprofit. How are they able to support other organizations?
We support other organizations through the money we make on the rodeo. We have scholarships that we provide. We were one of the biggest donors ever to the Osceola Foundation several years back. But it's from the proceeds we gain from the rodeos and the bull riding and the barrel racing events that we do throughout the year.
That's great.
So you know, when you come in and you buy that $15 ticket, you buy that Coca-Cola or you buy that hamburger, that money is really, it's not going in anybody else's pocket. It's staying right here in this community through some of the things, and maybe Chris wants to touch on that. Some of the things we're doing right now, the scholarship that we've added back, and some of the other organizations that we're sponsoring right now, because we've done a lot in the past, but I know we have some. Yeah, we do. Some new things.
Yeah, we've, you know, of course, the scholarships through Education Foundation of Osceola. In February, we donate to the Florida Hospital for cancer research. We've also worked with the Guardian Ad Litem organization here in the county, and then in the June rodeo, last year we started, and we're going to continue it this year, but it's the Wounded Warrior Sportsman Fund, and that's a local organization helping, you know, wounded veterans. So that's just a few. You know, it's upwards of $100,000 a year that we're giving back in the community every year.
Right, and I think that's something that's so special about this rodeo and with Osceola County, knowing that you guys not only are having fun with the heritage, but you're giving back to the community, and I think that's so very special. So another very special thing that you guys do here is Rodeo Day. So what is Rodeo Day and who participates?
Rodeo Day is something that's been going on in this county longer than my time in the county. But it's similar to lots of holidays that different areas in different parts of the country have on harvest days, or whatever their local economy is, whatever the driver is, whatever their community event is, their community fair, whatever it happens to be. That is the way Rodeo Day got started, as a day to let the kids off who participated in the hog sales, the livestock shows, those sort of things. And very, very fortunately, the school board has continued to allow all the students out of school that day. Students are allowed to enter into the rodeo and the fair, I believe, that day.
For free.
For free.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a very unique feature of Osceola County. It's something I think makes us unique and makes us fun.
Yeah.
It, it was all the way back to the 50s.
Yeah.
I can tell you that my grandmother.
Before I was born.
Yeah. See, I was going to call you out. But I can tell you, my grandmother, Mildred, who Petey Partin, as everybody knows, she takes credit for having something to do with it. Now, we've never found the minutes. We don't know if she actually did. But she did say that it was a group of parents back in the 50s when her kids were in school that they were having to miss school to go and help with the rodeo because it was all matinee then. There was no lights at the arena, so the show had to be held during the day when the sun was shining. So that happens in February, not in June. You just want to make sure that we clarify that. But certainly, folks got together and said, we want our kids, because folks in this community have always valued education. They didn't want their kids missing school. So they said, you know what? We're just going to let all the kids out of school. We're going to let the kids come enjoy the rodeo and come enjoy something that's so amazing about their community.
And so many of the kids worked it.
Absolutely.
They were either showing their livestock, or, right, or they were working on the committee, so they weren't going to be at school anyway. And at the time, that was a huge deal for Osceola County because we didn't have Walt Disney World, and we didn't have SeaWorld or Universal, but we had the Silver Spurs Rodeo, and that was huge. It's the largest rodeo east of the Mississippi, so. You know, it was an exciting day, and it was a way we could all get together. We saw all our friends from across the canal.
That's right.
And we were able to socialize and just have a great time, and it was a big deal. It was a real big deal.
That's what
Still
it's
is.
like.
It still is.
It's like Patsy
Yeah.
said, they're from Kissimmee and Ricky and I from St. Cloud, respectively. That we all participated in it when we were in school, and that we can keep that tradition going still. I think it's a kind of a testament to what we've been doing at the club.
Well, you've got two school board members sitting here on your panel today, and your superintendent, although Dr. Deborah Pace was never went on to be the big boss. She did serve on the board for a while. Her father was a former big boss as well. So I think Rodeo Day is safe in Osceola County
For a little while.
Yes, and speaking of big bosses, you guys, you did your time and you continue to do your time at, with the Silver Spurs Rodeo. So what does that mean to you to be able to be the big boss of the Silver Spurs Rodeo?
To me, it's standing in some of the shoes of some men that were my heroes when I was growing up.
Absolutely.
Going back to some of the originals, and to be able to say that I've got to be where they were, it's kind of a badge of honor. So.
It is.
Yeah,
My
it's
grandfather served. I can't remember the date. I'm sure it was back in the 50s or 60s. He was a big boss, Henry Doc Partin. My dad served. I believe it was 88, 89, somewhere in there. So, and my mother and my grandmother both served as concessions committee chairman. My mother still helps out with the concessions. And you know what? You see the kids up there serving the food on this side of the arena. That's my two daughters and my son. They love work. They love coming, and they ride in the quadrille, and they run right up to the concession stand to help out. So, even though we're in this new building and it's a little bit different than the outdoor facility that we used to have, it still has that same feel of like there are these group of community members and leaders that have stepped up to continue this organization.
And the people in the organization are from all different walks of life.
Absolutely.
For example, I'm a past big boss, but I'm not from a cowboy family or a ranching family.
Cowboy with a K family.
Yeah, I am a cowboy with a K family, to be very clear. But it's nice from my perspective because a lot of my friends do have that background. It's families I've known all my life that have had dinner with or our place or their place all my life. So it's nice. It's a very accepting group, and it is a diverse group. It's not just the ranching families, but it's some of the families in the community that have been around, be it in business or whatever it happened to be, that help make the community a complete community.
Yeah. And I tell you, when you have this group of people that have worked together for so many years, and you have so much respect for them anyway. I think Chris was right. It's like a badge of honor. And when they put their faith and trust in you to lead their organization, that's a huge honor. It's a huge honor.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That's what, even just to get started in the club, when we were in elementary school, we were carrying ice for Martin's concession stand. You never even dreamed then that we would be sitting ahead.
And I think it's also helped some leaders grow within the community.
Certainly.
Because to have this opportunity, because I'll tell you what, there's some ornery folks within this club. My mother happened to be one. But no, in all seriousness, you talk about traditions, and you talk about folks coming and young folks stepping up to be leaders. There are those moments where you're tested and challenged as a young leader. When you're on the board or when you become big boss, because you may have to make some changes. You may have to step out and do some different things. I mean, obviously we're not out at Pinky Villa anymore. We're not in the old big outdoor grandstands that we used to have. We're in this new facility, and we have our club has a different dynamic, and we can still grow. And so I think the club has really done a great job of building some leaders within this community.
What traditions haven't changed over the 75 years, and what has changed?
Yeah, we still do things like the quadrille, which is a big deal. But, I think when we first started, it was a way to celebrate who we were. And I think now it's a little bit less of that, even though it still is part of who we are. Now we're celebrating our heritage, but also educating our new members of our community into who we are, right? So when you come into this community, you may, if you came from the Northeast, you maybe never been to a rodeo. When you come and you live in Osceola County, to have the opportunity to come and see a really top-notch show like this one, that's a big deal. So I think now it's more than just celebrating who we are. Now we're also celebrating our heritage and educating our new citizens, the folks that have moved in the last several decades, to telling our story of the folks that were here before and bringing them into the fold. I can tell you we have a lot of members that are first-generation Osceola County residents who see the value of this organization and have become members over the last decade. So that's also a great part of it.
And the rodeo itself has changed a little bit from being just pure rodeo, certainly with some of the beginning performances where they have the Wounded Warriors. We do some of the swearing in for the military. Some of those different types of things that we do at the beginnings to bring in different parts of the law enforcement in the community, where we have first responders evening, things just to bring the whole community in to understand we're part of the whole community. It's not just one facet, but it's a broad approach, and this is a little bit of what this community is, or it's a lot of what this community is.
Some of it that I've been a big part of in the last few years especially is that we've been pushing the message of agriculture in the county too. We're still growing food in Osceola County, whether it be cows or crops, and we want to. That's what part of our education, mission is to put people into jobs in agriculture that we're still going to need in this county. We work with our local county cattlemen's association and farm bureau, and we host a lot of luncheons and stand up and give some speeches, let them know that
we have become almost a catering service.
Yes, it is. But we make them. You tell them, we want you got to give us a few minutes to talk about ag, and the people love it because a lot of them don't know it.
That's part of the great outreach. Beyond just coming to a rodeo in February, coming in June. Beyond that is the outreach that we're able to do, the community outreach, and beyond charitable outreach, just informational, educational outreach.
And I think as many changes as we've had, the one thing that's remained constant is the community.
Yes.
Silver Spurs Rodeo has always been about community.
You guys have been involved with the rodeo for a very long time. What is your favorite memory growing up with the Silver Spurs Rodeo?
Wow.
That we can talk about.
Well, look, I got to ride in the quadrille, and not many young kids, and I say this to my kids all the time, although it's lost on them because they're young, but it's a big deal to be able to perform in front of 6, 7, 8,000 people. That's a big deal for a kid that's 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. now that I've just become a professional rodeo announcer, I guess officially, I can tell you that's where my love. I always loved sitting and listening to Clem McSpadden when I was a kid. I just loved his voice. I loved how he sounded. You know, those voices of the Silver Spurs. And that's kind of what led me into being a rodeo announcer. And I loved watching La Bamba, the clown, ride the bull backwards.
I heard he still does that.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, a whole career ago, and yes, he still does it. It's crazy, but those are mine, some of mine anyway.
Some of mine would be watching my kids. Same thing, kind of east-west side of the canal. My kids grew up on the west side of the canal, but getting to know people whose families I knew or people I grew up with and get to know their kids and see them, particularly rodeo week, getting off for school, see the excitement we kind of build with them around the house as we get closer and closer to rodeo. And they would be here long days with Joe and I from start to finish, and go home pretty filthy, pretty grimy, pretty grubby.
Good for kids.
Cotton candy, dirt, spilled sodas, whatever it was, all over them, and ready to get up the next day. And those are kind of some of my funnest memories.
Yeah, I think I always enjoyed the competition. The riders are, their strength and their courage and their agility was just absolutely amazing. And of course, the quadrille was always my favorite. I love the quadrille.
Yeah, I know. It's, like say growing up from helping in the concession stand to moving into the back pens and helping and being, seeing Doug up there or Shang and, moving up to where they are now. It's it's really kind of.
Yeah, those men were giant. Shang Brunson and Doug Partin, and they were just giants. Like I think Chris said it earlier, they were heroes. They were all of our heroes. These guys were just unbelievable men. And not just
very
strong
humble.
men.
They were all very humble.
Not just strong physically, but also
all gentlemen.
Humble. Yes, very gentlemanly, very humble, very gracious.
I love it.
Really good guy.
Yeah, and so there's so much that goes into the rodeo. There's so many different events. Out of all the events, what is your favorite?
Mine is it's the saddle bronc. It's the original, the original sport of rodeo. That's just I always like seeing them work. The cowboy and horse work together.
Of course, I love seeing my family and my kids ride in the quadrille. But if I had to pick one of the standard rodeo events, I would be cliche and go with the bull riding because. But it's just even more special because so many of the bulls are raised here in Osceola County. If I go to some other rodeo and see bulls are hauled in from other places, it's not the same as knowing, I know the genetics of that bull. I know where he was raised. I know which ranch he came from. So that I like to watch the bulls buck more than I would like to watch the riders ride, I guess.
I like them all. I don't know that I could really pick one. Of course, I enjoy the barrel racing. But
I was hoping you were going to get that in there, being the woman on this panel.
Yeah, the girls in that barrel racing are like the gentlemen that participate. It takes a lot of strength, it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of agility, and they are amazing, but that really goes for all the events.
I think I've changed a little bit over time. It really used to be the rough stock, and I still like the rough stock. But one thing we've gotten with this new arena is the big jumbotron in the middle of the arena. So you can really tell on the timed events, the barrel racing and the calf roping. It's fun now because you can see the stop clock running, and it's got whoever the leader is was 6 seconds or whatever it is. So the competition is easier to watch than what it used to be.
And we've talked about a lot with the community and the heritage here in Osceola County. But what do you think that the Silver Spurs Rodeo means to the community here in Osceola County?
It really is a way to celebrate our heritage, celebrate who we still are, and educate new members of our community. I think that really is it for me.
It's a lot different demographic now than we've had in the past too, and I think part of it is us educating the new people to this county that this is what we're still doing and this is what we've been doing, and we're giving back to the community, and we want your support while we're if you agree with what we're doing, come support us and help everyone else.
I'm not sure there's any other organization anywhere that has the longevity that the Silver Spurs has with this all volunteer group, and I think that's a real important feature of this organization.
Absolutely. How many organizations can you go back 75 plus
Right.
years and say this was a group of folks that just got together to give back,
Right.
and they're still going today?
And there's probably none of those that don't still have members in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got a hired staff, and
Yeah.
this is all volunteers
Yeah.
showing up every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we talked about your years as Big Boss. What impact do you think you made during your specific year as Big Boss?
Maybe the biggest impact I had is I was Big Boss at the time. We still had an outdoor arena, and the county had started expressing some interest on buying this property. Silver Spurs owned 50 acres of it, including where we're sitting. And it was during that time when we started negotiations on building this arena, working on a long-term lease for this arena to ensure the Spurs' longevity, to ensure the Spurs could continue to give back to the community and not just pay for upkeep of an arena, which is where we were, the path we were quite frankly heading down. So I think that's probably
great.
would be one of
Impact, yeah.
my biggest impacts.
I've mentioned earlier that the committees have years and years and years of experience, and they really can run themselves.
Yeah.
They are very fine-tuned, and they can do an excellent job in spite of the Big Boss. So,
Very true.
Parent company excluded.
so I really focused my energies on the public relations end of it.
Great. That's awesome.
And we had sellout crowds.
And Pat, just so you know where this comes from, Patsy was also the first woman Big Boss of the organization. So she had a different
I had a different
road
outlook.
to hoe.
Yeah, that's true.
Different
Yeah.
perspective.
Different
So I probably won't
perspective,
interrupt,
true.
but
That-
it kind of, it's important,
Yeah.
I think, where you're going.
Absolutely.
You want to skip over Chris? So you got to tell what you're gonna do.
No,
Hey, I've only got 2 months left.
Okay, well, go ahead.
My goal has been to make us better stewards of the land that we have to raise our own livestock, and it can take care of itself, but then also of our bank account too, where we could make sure all of our funds are going to the right organizations in the community.
I would say I take a lot of pride in kind of coming up with the idea for the bull riding event in February. When we were sitting there on that extra February date, and it was what are we going to do with this? We explored so many opportunities, but I will say, even though that I originally put it out there to the board, if it wasn't for two other big bosses who were big bosses after me, was Steve Knowles and Scott Ramsey. If it wasn't for them, their dedication and their work, and they're selling it to the membership, because I can tell you there was some of the membership that weren't on board, and that's kind of some of the club dynamics you have to work through. But if it wasn't for those two guys stepping up and going, yes, this is a great idea, and actually putting it together and making it happen, we'd have never got there. So every time I go to a Monster Bull event, it's nice to say, hey, I had a little something to do with this, and it's been a great money maker for the club. And when the club makes money, it's more money we can give back into the community. And so I have a lot of pride in that Monster Bull event every February.
And I think that goes back to like what Ricky said earlier about that. We're trying to build leaders through all the volunteers, these kids coming up, and then they're going to have to serve on the board, and you want them to keep going forward with what things that we've set into motion, that we want everybody to work towards that.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And like we said, Miss Patsy, you were the first female. That is so incredible. What does that mean to you?
Well, it certainly was a break from tradition.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
But it probably meant the same thing to me as it meant to all the other previous big bosses. I mean, it's a tremendous sense of pride and excitement, and mixed in there with a little apprehension. And but like we've all said here, we have such an amazing group of members that they really know what to do, and I was certainly pleased that they selected me to lead them.
And let me just say, even though she was the first one in name, the club has had a ton of women leaders over the years. So, and I think it was great that Miss Heffner was there for the first time, to be the first woman big boss, but this club will be nowhere.
Oh, I think almost every committee we have has always been headed by a woman.
Absolutely.
about,
Yeah. If you think about it now, Miss Mary Monstioka, Miss Kathy Partin, if you go back and you see Miss Kat Autry and Miss Bill Chapman, and I mentioned, my mother, my grandmother, and all those ladies, and I'm sure I'm missing a ton.
Connie.
Yeah.
Miss Purcell over at running the T-shirt stand at the deal. All these ladies had so great of an impact on the organization.
Absolutely.
So.
We just want to thank you guys so much for all that you do and all that you continue to do for the Silver Spurs Rodeo. You guys are setting such a path for the community and the future leaders of the Silver Spurs Rodeo. So thank you so much for all that you do. Make sure that you guys come on out to the Silver Spurs Rodeo, the 143rd Silver Spurs Rodeo, celebrating 75 years right here in the Silver Spurs Arena. Make sure you guys come on out May 31st, June 1st. You do not want to miss it because, like they have said, it is an amazing event that you want to make sure that you are a part of. I'm here with Mr. Clarence Thackers, Miss Patsy Heffner, Mr. Chris Fluke, Mr. Ricky Booth, and I am Morgan Boykin with Positively Osceola, and we're making a positive difference in Osceola County.